time for our weekly visit with the Hall of Famer Craig Way, joining us now, I presume from Austin, where I imagine, is there anything going on in football in your world this week at all?
Christmas has already arrived, Seth. I mean, it's arrived. It is Christmas. It's Westlake Lake Travis, and it's Texas OU, and depending on who you talk to, not necessarily in that order or whatever, but it's two gigantic games, no doubt about it.
And it's Westlake Lake Travis twice in a row. You're going to have it on Friday night at Shap Stadium with Westlake taking on welcoming in Lake Travis in a critical District 25 6A matchup, and then Saturday at the Cotton Bowl. It's Baker Mayfield of Lake Travis taking on Sam Ellinger of Westlake. I don't know. I feel like maybe they planned this.
Yeah, it might have worked out that way. It worked out pretty well. It's funny, and I think you heard when I had we had the sound bite when I asked Sam Ellinger in the post-game show after the Texas win last Saturday night about how much was he looking forward to Texas OU, and would he and Cade Brewer even speak much this week, since here they are teammates, and one is Westlake and one is Lake Travis. And he just burst out laughing and said, I hadn't even thought about that. And then he went on, and then he said, well, I think it's gonna change. It's funny. I had Todd Dodge in studio with me today. I always do on Wednesday. And he comes over, and we were talking about things. But we got to talking about Texas OU because he was a Texas quarterback and played in that game. And I said, okay, so what are your memories? And he said, well, I have a lot. Like a lot of folks have a lot of different memories. And he named 2 or 3. And he goes, but probably. And he talked about the 1984 game, the infamous 15-15 tie in the rain, and he was the quarterback who threw the pass that Oklahoma will say is Keith Stansberry to this day came up with the interception in the back of the end zone. And he actually said they did a 20-year anniversary of that in 2004 when he was coaching at South Lake Carroll, and ABC had them reenact it like at Carroll's indoor practice facility, and had Keith Stansberry down there, and Todd throws the ball, and all these old guys there by then, 20 years later, throwing the ball in there, and Stansberry comes down with it, and Stansberry says, as you can tell, I still had the interception. And Todd says, as you can tell, as it was officiated, it was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, right.
So, so they've had a lot of fun. And he said the other thing he really remembers about that was getting tackled over near the Oklahoma sideline, and here it is drizzling rain, and and Barry Switzer helps him to his feet, and he gets, and I feel this huge puff of cigarette smoke, and there is Barry Switzer smoking a cigarette on the sideline. I get back over to the Texas sideline and said, guys, Coach Switzer's over there smoking a cigarette. And they said, oh, yeah, we heard that always, when the game gets tight, he always cups one in his hand. So those were the memories that Todd Dodge had, as well as the fact that in the days, and we're all familiar with how the Cotton Bowl works with the north and south end zones, and the Sooner fans and the Crimson are sitting in the south end zone, which is by the tunnel where the players walk out. And there used to be the day when they would walk out at exactly the same time, and there's pushing and shoving that goes on. Todd said normally that's between offensive linemen who aren't even going to line up against each other, across from each other in a game. But then you walk out, and he said, and you wind up smelling like whatever the Sooner fans threw on you. He said it could be beer, it could be Jack and Coke, it could be any number of things that they would throw on you because that was in the pre-tarped days of the tunnel entrance of the south end zone. So how about that for memories?
Now, I want to, speaking of memories, you have been calling Texas games. 88, was that your first year?
I was the studio anchor from 88 through 91. I went into the booth in 92.
Okay. So then let's go to 92 then. So this is going to be, boy, I hate to date you here. Is this going to be your 25th Red River game?
Well, I'd actually been to a couple before.
Mm-hmm.
I covered it, media,
sure.
like in a couple other times. So I had been there. So I'm not exactly sure of the count. Obviously, I wasn't at the one last year when I lost my wife, so I wasn't at last year's game. But it's in that neighborhood. So yeah, I've seen a few of them.
So then,
yeah, sure.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. If there's one Texas OU game that stands out to you, which one is it?
Well, funny you mentioned that, because and weren't you still around when they were in the studio last Friday night? We always tell these stories about us standing in the parking lot in the wee hours of the morning talking. But before we even got to the parking lot, and they were shooting the piece, because our friends at Fox Sports Southwest are great about stockpiling all this stuff. So they had me do a thing on like three of the games that really were that I consider to be greatest games. And my question was, you mean games that I've had an opportunity to see or call, or just greatest of all time? And they said greatest of all time. So I named 1958 when Texas won 15-14 with Bobby Lackey and the 2-point conversion and all that. And I mentioned 63 when it was number 1 and number 2, and Texas won 28-7, and they went on to win the national title. But then I was really torn between the one other game I was going to mention, and both of them I was fortunate enough to get a chance to call, 2005 and 2008. Now in 2005, they were coming off having lost 5 in a row to OU, and even though they were number 2 in the country and on a real roll, and it was still until you've done it, until you wind up knocking them off, you haven't ended the streak. And so they didn't. They dominated the game, and they won 45-12, and Jamal Charles had an 80-yard touchdown run in the game and all that sort of stuff. And yet the game that I came back to, really, and the one that I picked, was 2008. And of course that was OU was number 1, Texas was number 5, and this great shootout. You had Sam Bradford against Colt McCoy, and OU scores to go up 14-3 in the second quarter, and Jordan Shipley returns the ensuing kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown, and it flips the script, and have all these great moments. And last night I was doing a radio show down here in Austin at a restaurant, and I had Quan Cosby on with me, and Quan played in both of those games. And I said, which one stands out? I mean, 05 is the national championship year. But he agreed with me. He said, no, 08. Definitely 08. He said that was my senior year, and it was big, and it was this heavyweight thing. But you always get that heavyweight fight feel about that game, no matter what the teams have done going into that game, because that game stands on its own merit.
We're talking with the Hall of Famer Craig Way here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. All right, I want to shift gears over to the high school ranks because, for all the talk about Westlake and Lake Travis, and it's a huge game, and I don't want to take anything away from that game. It's the headline game. This is a monster week of high school football across the state. Huge games every corner of the state. I can't remember a slate this loaded, not just at the top with all these really great meaty secondary options as well. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me a game other than Lake Travis and Westlake that you are perhaps most excited about.
So there is a game other than Westlake or Lake Travis.
Believe it or not, Craig, they're like the high school football is not going to shut down for what's going on at Shap Stadium.
You try telling it to the people in these parts. I'll tell you that. That's something. There's a few of them that come to mind. Certainly, I kind of like Manville Fort Bend Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'll
think
be there.
I think that's a good one. We find out if Plano can bounce back this week when they taking on Allen, and we find out a little more certainly about that one. I think I like North Shore Tascasita. I think that could be one to keep track of. Those are just some of them, and then you get down to the lower classifications as well. And I think there's some other ones. Anson and Stanford might be a good ball game. Joaquin and Alto might be a good one to keep track of. Like you said, this is a week that is chock full of. And I think the way you described it on the show the other day, and I really liked the way you described it, Tep, was you said something about what do you call it, secondary or tertiary? You said the tertiary second tier of games, I think was one way you might have described it. I think that next tier of games, Gilmer Pleasant Grove, you mentioned that one the other day. That one I think is a real juicy matchup as well. So I think all of those are all very, very good possible choice. Liberty Hill La Vega.
Yeah.
So there's, you're right. You could go on and on about some really good ones.
It goes on and on. Week 7 is absolutely loaded. And so I want to finish up in that same vein by talking about the State Fair of Texas, because of course, the Texas OU is such a great event there, the Red River Showdown at the State Fair of Texas. My question is, are you a corny dog guy? Is that something that you will seek out before the game, or do you have other delicacies that you prefer to partake in?
I'm really torn this year, Tep, because this game, as you know, this Texas OU game has been a morning kickoff for most of, in the last 15 years. It has been a non-morning kickoff only 6 times in the last 15 years. So most of the time we're kicking off at 11 a.m. So I like to get to the stadium like 4 hours or 3.5 hours before kick. So I'm walking into the fairgrounds just as some people are staggering out, I might add, at 7 o'clock in the morning. But as I'm walking in at 7 o'clock in the morning, there are a few things better at 7:30 in the morning than getting a Fletcher's corny dog there at the fair. That's the breakfast of champions at that hour of the morning. I do like that. That said, I also, again, going back to having Quan Cosby on the show, he's real partial to turkey legs. He likes the turkey legs. So he was on that. And a few years ago, you mentioned the deep-fried delicacies. I had to try the deep-fried salad. Tossed salad. That wasn't so much. I had to do that deal. I may be leaning toward perhaps the deep fried queso burger or something like the donut burger. That kind of deal. So my appetite is directly proportional to how the game and the broadcast went too. So we'll see how that goes after the game.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, let's hope that things go well in the broadcast, that you can celebrate with a nice corny dog.
That'd be okay.
He is Craig Way. Follow him on Twitter at CraigWay1. Listen to his fine broadcast of Texas OU. On the Texas Longhorns IMG Radio Network coming up on Saturday. And, of course, see him on High School Scoreboard Live at 11 o'clock on Fox Sports Southwest. Craig, appreciate your time. I will see you in like 48 hours or so.
We'll look forward to that as you lead it off for us with your 3 non-stop hours as you go with Fox Football Friday.
We appreciate it, Craig.